The Joe Budden podcast reveals what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yo, watch your fucking mouth, yo.
You said we was up here jealous of Mark instead of you was up here trying to manipulate a situation, saying a whole bunch of bullshit.
That couch looked away. Okay. Nobody here has ever been ecstatic when a new hire came.
When Mel came here, I didn't give a f***.
Observation I had that I noticed was there was no clear beat mic, and at times it made it challenging for you to take a break or breathe or do other things.
That's right. On the last episode of Joe Budden's Patreon, Joe Budden's co-hosts really let everything get exposed, and it revealed the dynamics between the show. Now, this all started because Joe said that Mark was beating Ish in the comments. That's right. Joe loves this storyline that Mark Lamont Hill is the person who disrupted the show because of his outwardly shining professionalism and his way to steward conversations. And he's saying that Mark soundly defeated Ish in the debate about, I guess, the Abbott Elementary girl. She divorced her white husband, and it led into a gender war conversation, and everybody was at odds, especially Ish and Mark. And people in the comment section on Twitter, Reddit, all feel like Ish was soundly defeated. I think this ruffles Ish's feathers because a little bit later, Ish starts to establish his value. He starts talking about how when I wasn't on the show, you know, people was saying that they missed him.
Ish, you were just gone for mad long.
And they say, yo, dog, I hate to tell you, I don't even f with that, but the show misses him.
People were saying that the show was caca, you know that word he loves saying. Watch out now. Ish is starting to realize that he's valuable. He's basically saying, you bought Mark Lamont Hill here, but when I was gone, everybody was talking about where's Ish. File that in the cabinet, y'all. File that in the cabinet. And then Ish starts talking about how Joe be with people on Spaces who kick his back in. I gotta tell you, man, Spaces might be messing up the show. Because quiet as it's kept, and I think it's a secret that would be obvious if you're on Spaces like me, every member of the show has a faction of the community that is feeding them information about how each other person operates on Spaces. Flip is talking about he got some program that alerts him when he's mentioned on Spaces. No, he's either in the Spaces anonymously or somebody is DMing him what other cast members are saying. And then on top of that, every other member has a faction that is sending them stuff. I know for a fact there's people sending Ish information, and not the person he was talking about on the show. He was saying there's this guy that sends them analytics. There's women on Spaces talking to Ish. There's women on Spaces talking to Imani. There's women on Spaces talking to Melissa Ford. The hot and bothered community is organizing in order to make Melissa Ford seems like she's good at podcasting, and she's not. Anyway, that was a shot, but it was really how I felt. Then Ish and Imani get into it with Joe about antagonizing them in terms of this Mark Lamont Hill arrival. And Imani appears to get fake upset, but maybe it was real because Joe was saying some wild stuff. He said something along the lines of, I don't even notice when Imani walks in the room. He don't even got swagger like that. Yeah, that was a little wild because it's a joke, but that joke is very serious because when he's on the show, is indeed the truth. Who notices Imani? Imani doesn't really shine in a room of Ish, Mark Lamont, Joe, and now he's even in a background character to someone like Ice. I could never have imagined when Imani joined the show that Ice would have a bigger voice on the show, but he does, and that's kind of crazy. Then Joe once again brings up the point that Mark, fixed up Ish, and then Ish says he cooked Joe. Now he's hearkening back to the debate they had where Ish said that Joe was trying to present it as if the cast was mad at the addition of Mark Lamont Hill, but then Ish exposed that Joe was trying to create dissension for the podcast in order to create a more, I guess, conflict-based narrative. And Joe says, nah, you didn't cook me. I went back and saw it. I saw it. Yeah, I didn't expose nothing. That was a shot because Joe even says, like, I know because I go back and watch it. You don't do that. You don't invest time into analyzing the product. I do. So I know that I won that debate. Joe even pushes it a step further by saying The Newark couch was mad that Mark Lamont Hill was coming to the show.
Lamont will be starting sometime soon. The thinking there is to give each of y'all a day off, like per month. Why y'all don't look as happy as I thought y'all would?
Joe is exposing the truth about Ish and Ice. They are very protective of their standing with the Joe Budden podcast. They didn't even like when Flip arrived and Melissa Ford arrived. And now Ish is saying he didn't care, but Joe knows deep down. Y'all cared. Y'all was acting crazy on air. I saw it too. When Flip would make a joke, they was looking at Flip like he had like 3 eyes. They were like, oh, look at this guy. He's crazy.
Yeah. But I don't have no validity to that, so I'm not.
But that's what he said. So say what he said. But you saying it now, but say it initially.
What relevance it got?
Because you tiptoeing on
You're being messy. I'm not.
Exactly. All right. So don't say it.
You act like you the Don Dada, like everybody else up here is a fake nigga but you. You not the realest in the room. So we gotta stop it because it's demoralizing us like we some and that's not the case, Flip.
Ish was even saying stuff like, oh, this cast, oh, we're so immature. Oh, we don't really get to dive deep on topics. You was upset. You was upset. You was mad. You was angry. You was in your feelings. You didn't even like being on the show. You was no longer the star that you were before. And Joe knows that that's how Ish felt. But now he's trying to present publicly like he's every man. Like, oh, I love everybody. So Joe didn't even want to really take it there. He could have really had Ish dead to rights had he pushed the envelope. Then Joe says Mark Lamont Hill shined. And Flip chimes in, kind of echoing Ish's talking points about saying Joe has an angle that he's trying to make it seem like the old cast didn't want Mark there. And Ish says Joe is lying when he says things like, yo, I'm only performing for the mic. I'm not really revealing how I feel. And that's right. Ish is lying. Joe is revealing how he feels. He is performing, but there's also some truth in the performance. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Joe likes to get that off. I don't agree with it at all. I'm more in line with what Ish is saying. Then Flip says that the cast keeps cutting him off when he speaks, and Flip says he has a bot that tracks when he gets cut off. Once again, Flip does not have a bot. I'm pretty sure he does not have a bot that watches when he gets cut off. It's probably people watching, like his Flip the Network folks, like, oh, Flip, you're getting cut off. But Mark Lamont Hill brings up a good point and says, why don't you watch the show when you cut people off, and maybe then you will see that you're the problem guy. And we got to talk about Mark Lamont LaRosa, fellow Scotty Beam appreciator.
Where's Scotty at?
Scotty Bean?
Yeah.
She's not here right now.
I wore my new cologne and everything. But where's Scotty B? But that's what I came in the building for.
Yeah. Normally I'd be like, hey, chill.
Right, she grown.
He said that when he used to listen to the show as a listener, there was no clear B mic.
That was the thing. It's like there is no clear B mic. It was like some people were good at responding to a topic but not initiating.
And a lot of the load was on Joe. Whoa, buddy. How could you say that? You just got here. You bugging out, bro. You bugging out. And he felt comfortable saying that. We have to, how did the rest of the cast even let that fly? Ish, you just stood there. They killed your mans in front of you and you let that happen. Y'all might be like, Daniel, why are you getting so hot? Because that was nuts. How could you say that? Even though it was true. But that just shows that Mark Lamont Hill has an agenda there. He went in there with a purpose. I'm going to be the clear B mic of the show. And he is. And speaking of leathered mics, Joe said some wild stuff. He called Melissa Ford a G mic. It's getting wild, y'all. Then he called Ice a Z mic. Now y'all can say it's jokes. This is how people relate. Danny, you don't understand culture. No, man, it's not a joke if it's actually true. Melissa Ford is a periphery mic. Ice isn't the main attraction. He isn't the second attraction. He isn't the third attraction. He's Chris Kilpatrick from NSYNC. And obviously that's the case. But when you say it, it holds meaning. And then Imani kind of gets in, a little wild. He says, there's no real mic setup because Joe, you kept adding mics. And then Joe fires back. He lets them know, I have to add a mic since Mark Lamont Hill got there. Oh my God, body blow to the gut, George Foreman. Well, actually, Joe Frazier. And that was crazy, y'all. I'm telling y'all, this episode, a lot was revealed. It was wild. The pecking order was established, and it was a bit nasty. And we have to zoom out. We have to look at the bigger picture, and we have to look at one of the narratives Joe tried to establish when he used to be on Spaces. Because around the time before Mark Lamont Hill's arrival, he was saying stuff like, I have the best cast in the world. But behind the scenes, he was distraught. He knew his cast wasn't special. He knew he couldn't rely on members of the show. When he suspended Flip and Flip was out, he was like, man, what was left over ain't enough. You got Melissa Ford calling out. You got Ish calling out. All these people, they not something I can rely on. It's bad for me right now. I got to get moving. I got to get shaken. I got to do this. I got to do that. And his remedy was to add Mark Lamont Hill. It's working. But is he a little too dependent on Mark Lamont? Did Joe realize that hiring friends backfired? Because if you look at Imani, he hired a friend and it's not really working for him. Imani's been a terrible hire if you look at the whole picture. I don't have anything personal against Imani, but Flip wasn't really his friend. He likes to sell you that image. Flip and Joe weren't friends. They were just, Joe signed to Flip's people. Flip tried to make it seem like they were closer than they were. I don't even think they really talk like that. But Flip's a professional. He's an entertainer. And that worked. When he hired Flip, it worked. It boosted the value of the show. But then Mark Lamont comes along, and he's not a diva like Flip. He knows how to communicate more than Melissa Ford. And Joe was probably thinking, like, I could hire professionals and not have to deal with, people calling out. Mark Lamont Hill's on time. You're starting to kind of get to see the truth behind everything. This is real, y'all. So go back and watch the Patreon. A lot of people are going to say I'm adding sauce to it. I'm not adding nothing I didn't see. The craziest part of this is what I highlighted. And it's when Mark Lamont Hill said, I used to listen to the show and there was no clear B mic. I'm sorry, y'all. Everybody on the show, y'all need to step it up. You can't have Mark Lamont coming on the show acting like he better than y'all. Even if he is. I would have been like, I wouldn't have said it. I would have been like, this is the guy who's talking. I saw your night school YouTube channel, buddy. You struggling to crack 1,000 views. I don't give a damn about what you do in colleges and stuff like that. You ain't lit like that. But we'll see how the cast reacts. The pecking order was revealed, which is why this episode was instrumental. And a lot of my theories have been coming to light. Oh, man. Joe, you were saying the cast was great, but deep down you knew it wasn't. And we'll have to see who joins the show in the future. All right, y'all. Pardon me for the long video, but I felt like this deserved a thorough breakdown. And I feel like the science is done. We have to monitor the fallout from this conversation, and we will take it from there. Follow me on Patreon, y'all. My Patreon is getting good, bro. I never thought. I'm telling you, even though, I established a successful YouTube channel, built an audience, went from YouTube to Spaces and Twitter, built the audience on Twitter. Don't forget about my subreddit, the Joe Budden Network. That joint was at under 1,000, took it to 33,000, and now it's probably the biggest Joe Budden podcast subreddit. A lot of people are like, oh, Danny, how could you take over something that's not yours? I mean, it is mine now, so haha, mute point. And now I'm on Patreon, and it's popping. No, now you're gonna say, oh, all you get is like 2 comments. No, now I get 10, 15 comments, 20 likes, people subscribing. I'm so proud of that. And I'm gonna celebrate my achievement because the reason I can do that is as a result of everybody who supports the channel. Shout out to the stoppers. Shout out to the hate stoppers. I love y'all too. All of y'all really, really are special. And I got some crazy stuff coming on real soon. I would say by mid-April, something special is going to happen on the Patreon. And you need to be subscribed to see what that is. All right, y'all. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Please protect your jobs, y'all. Peace.